So I did something. I went on a book buying spree and I ended up with more than 30 books. Hello, good morning. I am Rania. Welcome to my end of the year massive book haul. But before I start, I just want to give you a little bit of a context. I have always been an avid reader. However, for the last couple of years, I kind of fell out of reading. I didn't have enough time to read. But this year, we changed that. I got back into reading. I read so many books than I normally do. I don't even know how much actually. Anyways, we'll have to do a count later. But I read a lot of books. I got back into reading. I joined the booktube community and I saw that there have been so many good books that have been released that I haven't read yet, but I want to. And then I saw that there were these massive discounts at my local bookshops, and they had the books I wanted. Therefore, I went book shopping. I got a little carried away and I ended up with more than 20 books. I'm super excited to share everything I got. Let me know if you've read any of these or if you plan on reading any of these. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you have any other recommendations, there's still a couple more days on the sale. So if you have any recommendations, let me know. I am going to throw in 5 books that I got in Berlin last month when I was there. And I'm also not going to elaborate on the, let's say, the synopsis of the story. I'll mostly tell you what I got, why I got them, and a little bit about what I know about the book. For the most part, I don't know too much about the story because I like it like that. I like being surprised. I like going blindly into a book. When I did buy the books, however, I did read up on them to get an overall idea about the vibe or the rating, if it's worth buying, but I don't remember much right now. And I'm gonna keep it that way because I want the book to take me on a journey and I want to be surprised. I want to form my own thoughts regarding the book. Okay, the first book we have is The Grimm's Fairy Tale by Jacob Grimm and Wilhelm Grimm. Now, I have been wanting to read this book ever since I found out that the actual fairy tales, Snow White, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, the ones we see on the movies or the ones we've read in our childhood, that's not what the actual stories are, that they are more sugar coated versions or nicer versions of the actual stories, and that the actual stories are very grim and dark with no happy endings. So, yes, I wanted to read it. I took advantage of the sale and got myself this beautiful copy of the Grimm's Fairy Tale. Okay, next we have a book that I picked up in Berlin. It is The Time Shelter. And the story of this is very interesting. There is this facility for people with Alzheimer's disease, and each floor is kind of built to look like a particular decade. So it's kind of there to help the patients feel more at home and more comfortable. However, healthy people are kind of taking advantage of this, and they're using this kind of like a time shelter to escape the things that they have done wrong in the current timeline. I'm so curious to see how that plays out. And this is the first book I picked up in Berlin, which led to me buying a couple others. Let me see if I can find them here. Yes, okay. So that brings me to this gorgeous book. Just look at it. So pretty. And this is Dallergut Dream Department Store. The dream you ordered is sold out. It's by Meili. I'm really sorry about butchering the name, but it is a Korean author. This is a Korean book. It's part of a duology. This is the first part, and the idea is that there is this department store that sells you dreams. Each floor is specialized to sell you a different type of dream, and that just sounds so cool. I wanted to get the second part as well, but the second part was in the bigger paperback edition that I don't like, so I'll wait, give this a try, and see if I want to get the second book. Okay, next we have A Stroke of the Pen, The Lost Stories by Terry Pratchett. And I understand that Terry Pratchett is one of the fantasy authors of our generation, that if you are someone who avidly reads fantasy, you will read one of his books. However, I haven't. And that's why I picked up this collection of his short stories to kind of get an idea about his writing style, get the vibes, and maybe commit to a full sized book later down the year. Okay. Speaking of fantasy, okay, I am so excited about this massive quartet that is the Mistborn era 2, the second era. Um, and this is set like 300 years after the first era, the Mistborn trilogy, with new characters. It's following, I believe, Wax and Wayne. And there are 4 books in this series. And I just loved the Mistborn world so much. I love the concept of using metals to get your powers. I love the world. What's really interesting about this is that there's a lot more science and technology in this world. I really want to see how the Feruchemists and the Allomancers are using their metal powers in this new, modern, advanced world. I got 2 other books by Brandon Sanderson. One is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and the other, just give me a second, let me find it. Hmm. There we go. And the other is The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England. Now, these 2 books are part of his Kickstarter campaign. I believe there are 4 books in this series, the first being Trust in the Emerald Sea. And I got my hands on books number 2 and 3. The Frugal Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England is a story of this man who wakes up, doesn't remember who he is, doesn't know where he is, why he is there, and the only guide he had was this handbook that somehow burst into flames as he was being transported to this timeline. He managed to salvage a couple of pieces, which will act as clue for him in surviving the medieval England. It gives me Harry Potter vibes. I like want to follow a wizard, so I hope this is as good as it sounds. Next, we have Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. So this is again kind of like a yin and yang story. There are 2 opposite characters who need to work together to save both of their worlds. And I understand that this is a standalone that is set in the Cosmere universe. So it gives me a glimpse into this universe as well. I want to read his other books, but I am scared to commit to the entire series as of yet. Okay, next I have here is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. And what I understand is this is her debut novel. Also, that this is the book that started the Dark Academia aesthetic, let's say, that you have this is like an elite school, you have a group of students and they are involved in the murder of their classmate, so you get to see their dynamics and the events that had led to the murder being committed. I haven't read Dark Academia before and I want to, so I thought where to start. Maybe the very first book that started the Dark Academia genre. The next up, we have 2 books by Han Kang, who won the Nobel Prize in Literature this year for, and I quote, for her intense poetic prose that confronts historical traumas and exposes the fragility of human life. And that sounds like an adventure. Like it's going to be an intense reading experience. And moreover, I'm expecting her to have very beautifully written narratives. And that's why I picked up The Vegetarian and The White Book. Love the storyline of which. A couple of years back, Vegetarian was being promoted so much in my country. And we had a lit fest where there were so many copies of The Vegetarian being sold. And I thought I picked one up. I thought I read it before, but I cannot find that copy. I don't know if I lent it out to someone or if I just lost it. Yes, I picked up this copy of The Vegetarian, and for the first time ever, I'll be reading The White Book. I understand that this is a novel. It's written in like little poems, and each is about something that is white. The structure of this, the entire theme really intrigues me. Next, we have some more literary fiction, Cleopatra and Frankenstein, and Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. Now, I'm most excited about reading The Blue Sisters because it's a story about four sisters. One has passed away, and the three sisters are kind of coping with this. We're exploring them grieving and how they are managing their lives afterwards. So I have sisters, and it just hit a chord with me. So I'm really excited about reading this. I mean, probably excited isn't the right word, describing a book about grief. And then we have Cleopatra and Frankenstein, and I think this is going to be a roller coaster. The characters are super out there. We have a 20-year-old who is partying, living her life, and then we have Frank, who is 20 years older than her, and they get into this relationship quite spontaneously, quite at first, and I think this is going to be kind of like a Great Gatsby, but in the modern era. Let's see. Okay, we have three of Sally Rooney's books: Beautiful World, Where Are You? Conversations with Friends, and Normal People. And Sally Rooney has been on my radar ever since I joined BookTube because everyone is talking about her. Everyone has read one of her books, and that these are amazing books to read. They tell you about human emotions and behavior and the complexity of real different types of relationships. I've also seen that you are either gonna love Sally Rooney or hate her, mostly because of her writing style. She kind of writes in stream of consciousness, maybe. I'm not sure. But I'm intrigued. I love a good story about human relationships, emotions. I love exploring humans and characters through different storylines, and I think I will like Sally Rooney's works. Next, I got the Hogwarts Library, which are the three books that we see in Harry Potter. So, Quidditch Through the Ages, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and the Tales of the Middle and the Bard. Just wanted to have that in my collection as additional pieces to read when I reread the Harry Potter. Okay. Next, we have The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. And I really, really, really like the story of this, the concept of this. So there is this house with children who have magical power, and this person goes to kind of inspect this house and see if everything is up to code. But then he falls in love with the caretaker of the children, and I don't know what else happens, but it's giving me X-Men vibes. Next, we have two books by Elif Shafak: The Gaze and The Architect's Apprentice. I've read 40 Rules of Love by her earlier, and I really liked it. She's a Turkish author. She writes beautifully. And I picked up these two books in particular because the stories are quite interesting. So, this one, The Architect's Apprentice, is about a young boy who has a white elephant, and it's set in the Ottoman Empire. So, that is an empire that I have not read before. The Gaze, on the other hand, is very interesting. So we have an obese woman and her lover, a dwarf, who are sick of being stared at wherever they go, and so decide to reverse roles. The man goes out wearing makeup, and the woman draws a mustache on her face. Next, we have A Man Called Ove by Frederick Backman, and I saw the movie of this one. Absolutely love the movie. I think Tom Hanks does a great job in the movie. So it's about this older man who lives in this gated community all by himself. His wife has passed away, and he's grumpy and he thinks all his neighbors are idiots. However, he has nothing to live for either. He feels that way. But some interaction with the new neighbor kind of changes his perspective on life. Okay. Next, we have Talking with Serial Killers, a chilling study of the world's most evil murderers by Christopher Berry D. I believe he's a criminologist, and he has written so many books on the mind of a psychopath. And recently, I have been more curious to explore what goes on in a serial killer's mind. So that's why I picked this one up. Okay, we have Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. Again, I don't know too much about this, but I saw this on BookTube and people have loved this book. I've had so many good reviews. So I'm gonna give this a try. Next, we have Four Seasons in Japan by Nick Bradley. And I am not entirely sure what's the best way to describe this book. It's a little complicated. We are following a character named Flo who is sick and tired of her life in Tokyo. She started with her career until she finds this mysterious manuscript in the Tokyo subway. And when she reads it, she is immediately compelled to translate it. That leads her on a journey following the elusive author of that manuscript in rural Japan across a year. And apparently, somehow down the line, their lives are connected. Google Books kind of puts it is that this is a book within a book about literature prose and what it means to belong. And of course, that has me hooked. I have to read it and see what the story is about. Next, we have Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. And okay, I have to be honest, like, there is a background to why I chose this book. I love certain singers and songwriters. I think they write beautiful lyrics, and I wanted to kind of read the books that has inspired them, that has made them into such amazing lyricists. And Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier was one of the books that has inspired Taylor Swift. I kind of want to give it a read and see how this book reflects on her songs and on her lyrics. We have A Couple by V.E. Schwab, starting with The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. This follows a woman who has made a bargain to live forever but be remembered by none. And she has been living her life for centuries now when she meets someone who recognizes her. I think they get into a relationship and then they start to live their lives together. However, they must face the consequences of the decisions they have made, and there are prices to be paid. So always like a good book about immortality and how the people who are immortal struggle living their daily lives. And the other one by V. Schwab I have is Gallant, and it seems to be a horror book following this young character, a 14-year-old Olivia Pryor, who is invited to live with her uncle in this mansion called Gallant. But when she arrives, she finds that her uncle is dead and that there are ghosts everywhere. And now she needs to make a decision. We are down to the last five books. I'm going to put them all in a category called Books About Bookshops. Okay, so this year, every time I went to the bookstore, I saw that there was at least one book about either cats or bookstores. And it seems to me that these are popular themes in the publishing industry this year. But more than that, I read Starless Sea this year and I absolutely loved it. And I read Days at the Morisaki Bookshop partly. Haven't finished it yet, but it just felt like this warm hug. And that's why I wanted to read more books about bookshops. And I picked up five books in this category. So the first one we have is Welcome to Gyeongnam-dong Bookshop. I believe that this is a story following your modern day woman who has a life, a job, very routine, very scheduled, and she is tired of it and she wants to escape this life, and all she wants to do is open up a bookshop. So that's what this story is about. Next we have An Actual Diary of a Bookseller by Sean Beitel. He owns, I believe, a second-hand bookshop in Scotland. So this is his diary about how he maintains that bookshop, but also about the different types of customers he sees in the bookshop. Okay, next we have the door to door bookstore, which is such a cute story. Carl is 72 years old, and every night he goes door to door delivering books by hand to his loyal customers. He knows their every desire and preference, carefully selecting this perfect story for each person. Doesn't that sound good? Okay, so one evening, as he makes his rounds, 9 years old Sasha appears. Loud and precautious, she insists on accompanying him and even tries to teach him a thing or two about books. So cute. And then, when Carl's job at the bookstore is threatened, will the old man and the girl in the yellow raincoat be able to restore Carl's way of life and return the joy of reading to his little European town? It just reminds me of Up, the grumpy old grandpa, the young Boy Scout. I think it's going to be such a cute story. The last two books that I have here are both by E.V. Wood. The first book is called The Lost Bookshop. It is following three characters, Opalyn, Martha, and Henry, who have been side characters in their own lives. But when a vanishing bookshop casts its spell, these three unsuspecting strangers will discover that their own stories are every bit as extraordinary as the ones found in the pages of their beloved books. By unlocking the secrets of the shelves, they find themselves transported to a world of wonder where nothing is as it seems. And also, just take a moment, look at the cover. The little house on the cover, it's so cute. I've always wanted to have one like that. The next book is The Story Collector, again by Evie Woods. And in this story, we're following Anna, a young farm girl who volunteers to help an intriguing American visitor translate fairy stories from Irish to English. But all is not as it seems, and Anna soon finds herself at the heart of a mystery that threatens her way of life. In present day New York, Sarah Harper boards a plane bound for the west coast of Ireland. But once there, she unearths dark secrets that could change the course of her life. All in all, both of these books seem very mysterious, and I think they might give me the same vibes as Starless Sea has, like taking you on an adventure. You're kind of going to have to solve some sort of a mystery. Yeah, sounds good. And that's it, folks. That's all the books that I got for my end of the year book haul. And I cannot wait to start reading these books next year. Will I give myself a book buying ban? Probably not. But I will be very conscious about my next purchases because I already have way too many books on my shelves and I basically have zero space left to buy more books. I should be reading and deciding which ones I want to keep, which ones I want to donate, so that I can make space for more books in the future. And also, I shouldn't just be buying books, but come on. If you are here watching this video, you probably are also uh, buying more books than you are reading. It's okay. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. And again, if you have read any of the books, please let me know down below. And I'll see you next year. Happy holidays.